Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke and today's the 27th of March, 2025. And I see that we have Kathleen on already. Good morning, saying happy Thursday. So happy Thursday to you as well. It's my second teaching day of the week. It's weird. It's going to be, this course that I'm teaching is going to go super fast because it's only 8 weeks and it's twice a week. And I'm like, geez, we're already kind of in this first phase of getting things done. They're already going to have to start with their first level assignments and everything next week because basically we're combining an entire semester. Basically a 16-week semester is now only going to be. And good morning, Alex, and good morning, Suda. It's good to see you guys. Yeah, so today's going to be a day when I have to go back, but thankfully I feel very good about teaching this class. So even though it's a whole new thing, and so I'm looking forward to doing it. But I have an insanely busy weekend ahead, doing Reiki Master classes, 4 hours of Reiki Master teacher classes in on Saturday, and then 6 hours of Reiki 2 that I'm doing on Sunday. So I'm shifting gears all over the place here for the stuff that I'm actually working on. So anyway, I hope everybody's got a good start to their day. It is, it's a very nice day here. I feel like we're definitely moving into spring. I think they said it's going to be almost 80 degrees this weekend. And I'm just like, oh my God. Yeah. So I guess when I'm teaching my class, we'll have to take a break and go outside because it'll be super nice. But I'm also thinking that the town that I'm going to be going into is going to be super packed with people because everybody's going to want to be out shopping and enjoying the nice day. So, yeah, so I don't know. Anyway, Saturday will be interesting. So this morning, the thing that I kind of want to talk about this morning has to do, I was doing, again, this is not abnormal for me, but I do get up and do my readings and so forth in the morning and all of my morning routines and the things that I do in connection to that. And what I had was, one card that kept coming up for me this morning was the Three of Cups. And I thought, that's a card we haven't really talked about. And that's another one of those that, I don't know. I don't know that its meaning is always that obvious. Good morning. We will see after yesterday's flurries. Oh, Jenny. Yeah, you know what? You're right, Jen. I had to go to store yesterday. And speaking of, this is Morning Coffee with Brigid, and I'm pretty much running out of coffee. So it's like, whoops, that's something I forgot at the store yesterday. But, well, no, well, remember, Jen, it's March too. I mean, it can go from, we can go from 40 to 80 in a very short period of time. And I've seen it happen before. So, but yeah, they are talking about 76 on Saturday. So my only worry about that is if I'm driving at night, it's foggy. So a lot of times the fog rolls in and that's part of the whole equation. So that's the only thing that concerns me because I don't like driving in the fog and there's a ton of deer out at night. And so I have to end up driving very, very slow. But anyway, so yeah, I want to talk about the Three of Cups today. And because it's interesting. It's a card that is interpreted in a number of different ways, depending. Now, generally, okay, if we have, I didn't bring the Rider-Waite one over. Right now I have the Cat Tarot. And of course, we have here these two cats like laying on this beach with a seal. Okay. The traditional Rider-Waite Smith image shows, yes, comes in like a lion and leaves like a lamb. Exactly. Or sometimes vice versa, but you're right. So yeah, so we've got this Three of C. We've got this Three of Cups energy here. And the implication here almost from looking at this is that these two cats are kind of laying on the beach. That this time-wise and astrological, yeah, weather-wise and astrological, yeah, kind of, I guess. Just going to Suda's comment. Cute, I love this, yeah. Weather-wise, astrologically, I think we're going out like a lion. We've got Neptune moving into Aries, and we've got a solar eclipse on Saturday, so it's gonna be quite a thing. It is cute. And yeah, this card is very much, you've got the two cats that are kind of like imitating the seal. They're both kind of laying there. And, it's, yeah, so there's a, so they're very cute. There's this idea here that it's almost like they're trying to commune with their friend, because this is not something that is necessarily typical cat behavior, although cats do like to lay around. So they're not necessarily near water. I know all the cats that I've owned always hated water. But you have this idea here of these cats who are, kind of hanging out with their friend. There's this third party there who is there. And oftentimes the Three of Cups is called the third party card. Okay, it's sometimes the, so there's this idea of either you're socializing with somebody. So if somebody's asking about a particular situation or how something's going to come together, it'll be like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's going to be at a social event. If somebody wants to know where an opportunity is coming and you get the Three of Cups, sometimes it will be like again, you could be at a party, you could be at a conference, you could be somewhere where you're interacting with other people. And again, the cards around it normally determine what that might be. I have seen readers use this card in relationship contexts to refer to the, they sometimes talk about a third party or a third party influence, because sometimes this comes in when we do have there is an additional person in the mix, which is kind of an interesting interpretation. I would think that would be one, like in love readings and so forth. Is there a third party in the mix? Like, sometimes you will see that, especially if this shows up either in reverse or if it shows up as something that is kind of a cross. Like if you're doing a Celtic cross, the card that crosses you is sometimes can be read almost like it's a reversal, where the thing that is a positive might come across as, I don't know, a third party. Does it always have to be negative? I mean, yeah, I guess in a committed relationship situation it would be, right? But that's not really the general meaning of this. If we look at the Osho Zen version of this particular card, we have the three women celebrating. Now, we've seen this card before, and this card is in fact called Celebration. And this gives us more of the vibe of three women who are kind of, they're letting their hair down and they're dancing in the rain. They're just, and this is that sense of abandon that people have. I always think about Ellen, who usually joins us on in a lot of our, tarot workshops, dream workshops. Maybe she's even going to be on this morning. But Ellen likes to go down to the town center where she lives in Canterbury, and she'll just bring her boombox and she'll dance and she'll just do stuff. Cause she's just she's like, sometimes I'm pretty self-conscious about it. She's like, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to go out there and I'm just going to be me. And if I had to be totally honest, my sister had met her for the first time on the thing, and she says, "Yeah, she seems like she's kind of, very, very free with that and everything." And I said, and my sister's just like, "God, I feel like I'm the complete opposite. I'm, sometimes we straitjacket ourselves, like, oh no, I have to be very careful how I behave around people. It's not that we don't behave, but we are very aware of what we think of as the rules. So the Three of Cups seems to be almost a card of forget about the rules, have a celebration, enjoy things. We talk a lot about enjoying life and the enjoyment of things. And in the midst of a lot of the, I think it was my friend Jesse called it, dumpster fire that life seems to be at the moment, in a lot of ways, there's kind of this element of celebrating in the midst of all of that. And we think what is there to celebrate? It sounds like, Nero fiddling while Rome burns or something. It sounds like it's not a responsible thing to do, right? How can I be partying when I've got all these serious things I have to think about, So one of the things I want to do is I have, we got this person today. Who is okay? So we've got this Three of Cups. So this says, and I'm reading this actually from the Osho Zen book because I think this is an interesting take on it. Okay, these three women dancing in the wind and the rain remind us that celebration never need depend on outside circumstances. We need not wait for a special holiday or a formal occasion, nor a sunny and cloudless day. True celebration arises from a joy that is first experienced deep within and spills over into an overflow of song and dance and laughter, and yes, even tears of gratitude. When you choose this card, it indicates you are becoming more and more available and open to the many opportunities that are to celebrate life and to spread this by contagion to others. Don't bother about scheduling a party on your calendar. Let your hair down, take your shoes off, and start splashing in the puddles now. The party is happening all around you every moment. Okay. And then, of course, there's the other piece of it on the other side that says, life is a moment to celebrate, to enjoy. Make it fun, a celebration, and then you will enter the temple. The temple is not for the long-faced. It has never been for them. Look at life. Do you see sadness anywhere? Have you ever seen a tree depressed? Have you ever seen a bird anxiety-ridden? Have you ever seen an animal neurotic? No. Life is not like that at all. Only man has gone wrong somehow, and he has gone wrong somewhere because he thinks himself to be very wise and very clever. Your cleverness is your disease. Don't be too wise. Always remember to stop. Don't go to the extreme. A little foolishness and a little wisdom is good, and the right combination makes you a Buddha. So, interesting, right? Interesting thought that we have here. And the actual energy of this particular card, if we look at it in the Kabbalistic deck, this is Mercury in Cancer. Okay, so when we think about Cancer energy, okay, it's connected with the moon, obviously, connected with emotions, connected to the fourth house. And there is a kind of home, family, ancestral kind of thing that's kind of put in there. And this is, so there's this idea here with Mercury. Mercury obviously rules the house that's right next to it, which is the third house. And Mercury energy, which also rules Virgo, by the way. There's this idea of something that's very social. I mean, Mercury has to do with communication. It has to do with travel. It has to do with connection. Though Mercury in the third house has a lot more to do with something that is a little bit more local. Okay, this is something that is that is local to us, and that the third house has to do with our immediate community and our immediate locality. So with the Three of Cups here, I also have Crowley's version as well here in front of me, which is this Three of Cups, where we have this this kind of overflowing. You kind of have this thing at the top here, and it starts flowing into the other cups in this one. Now, the Rider-Waite one, which I did forget to pull out this morning, that one shows basically three women, kind of very similar in the sense that they're wearing little crowns of flowers or whatever, all holding three cups up. They're together in a circle and they're holding up the three cups. And so, yeah, so there's definitely this idea here of socializing, of being social, and of celebrating. And I think what I find interesting is that we are there's been a lot of this coming up, and there's this idea of not only going out and celebrating, not only going out and enjoying yourself, but there's also, again, this very social kind of an energy. Now, one of the things that I've been talking about a lot, the classes that I'm teaching right now, we talk a lot about scholarly conversation, and we talk about classes as discussions and as places where the word schola, as I've often said, means leisure. And often, again, school is something, higher ed especially, that people get deadly, deadly serious about. And my approach to it has always been, it's a conversation. We're having a conversation. This should be more of a social event. This should be where I talk about things and you're able to ask me questions and we're able to have an exchange about something. And we live in a world right now where, you have to be on one side or the other, right? It's like you're either a, you're left or you're right, you're in US, you're Democrat or Republican, or you're, you have a liberal approach to the world, or you have a more right-leaning, potentially fascist view of the world. There seems to be this kind of there's no discussion and there's no middle ground. Now, obviously, if you're talking about people on a day-to-day basis, there may well be more common ground than people realize. We always tend to take something and kind of blow it up into you're an either or kind of a thing. And again, I'm not going to get into politics here, but if I'm just going to use the example of that, I mean, Republicanism when I was growing up was more about it was more economic. It was more of an economic disparity. You know, the Democratic sides felt you had to spend money, tax money on social programs, things like that. And on the Republican side of things, they would say, no, you shouldn't do that, small government. But they did like to spend money on defense. That was the thing. They like to spend on one thing and the other. And typically the whole idea was that you got together in a group and they would talk out, how many people could you convince to vote for your side of a thing? It becomes a rhetorical thing. It becomes like a debate. That's initially, I think, what the idea was. Now, of course, we don't see that anymore. It's just kind of like you're either in our camp or you're not. And that's just a very blatant example. But we see this in other ways too. Either you're this, people want kind of this either or kind of thing. And what this ends up doing in the end is that you end up shutting yourself off from community. You say, I'm not going to have conversations with people. I'm not going to, we're not going to try to understand each other at all because, there's nothing to say. And to be fair, that's honestly, that's not necessarily, there's some truth to it. I mean, when somebody is very much entrenched in a particular way of thinking, then trying to have a conversation about it doesn't work. I mean, it's just not, because there's no desire for a debate. It's just, this is my point of view and, you F off, it's like, there's that kind of a thing. And so what there ends up being is kind of a lot of shouting back and forth. And again, I'm not creating an equivalency here, like both sides are equal or whatever. It's if we step outside of what the actual viewpoints are, there is definitely a problem there of being able to connect with our community, of being able to connect with other people. This is an anxiety that a lot of people have. And, regardless of who's actually in office, this anxiety is still there. It's still underneath the surface. And some of the things we've talked about, I was talking to somebody yesterday on the phone. Actually, I was talking to Marco of Metapsychosis Journal. And he was almost like saying he said, is this time that we're in? He said, is it like, are we destroying everything and burning it down? Or is it going to prove to be more like a forest fire where the fire spreads and it destroys some things, but in the way that fires can occur naturally to promote new growth? And I thought that was a really interesting analogy, an interesting way to look at it. Like, what is this going to prove to be? Is this going to prove to be the absolute destruction of something? Or is it going to be something that this is a destruction that's going to lead to a regrowth and a rebuilding? So I don't know. I think it's interesting that we're seeing this attitude of celebration here. Okay, we're seeing this attitude of people trying to come together. And obviously, when you come together about these things, there's a lack of seriousness there. There's a lack of, it's just kind of saying, it's not putting things aside and saying, oh, let's pretend that there are no issues. Okay, that's not what it's trying to say. Because obviously there are issues, and you need to be aware and to pay attention, and vigilance is kind of required in those kinds of situations to a certain degree. But it's almost like we're living life these days. And again, I think no matter where you are in the world too, there's kind of this sense that there's sort of an anxiety about the future, about where we're going. And it's almost like we spend a lot of time holding our breath. Okay. We're always constantly standing there like, and you don't breathe, you don't get into the flow. We're so concerned about outcomes and about where things are going and so forth, that I think the Three of Cups is a reminder to kind of be here and be with the people who are local to you, who the people that you care about. Obviously, you want to certainly a celebration starts with the people who support you and who are close to you. But, and again, it does remind me, and I know I've said this before, it does kind of remind me of like what Gina had said that one time when she had said that, she said, what would happen if instead of everybody just sitting in their house getting angry and doing things, what if everybody just went out and said, yeah, we don't care, we're dancing, we're just going to dance in the streets, there's a certain amount of chaos to that, right? That kind of goes back to the whole idea. It's there's a chaos that's involved in, just saying, I'm not going to take things seriously, right? I'm not going to be serious. I'm not going to, put a gravity on something. That's one of the roles of the trickster. And it's interesting how we often associate the trickster with something negative, because the trickster is a element of chaos that gets introduced into the system. And when you have this chaos in the system, this has to do with an energy that's unpredictable, right? It takes us, we have our plan, we have everything mapped out, and then something completely throws us off course. And I think there's times when that can be annoying. And then there's times when sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen. Sometimes that diversion takes you away from something that is meant to be. The diversion takes you away from, how do I want to put it? It takes you away from routine. Okay. It takes you away from always doing everything in the same way. One of the things that's really problematic for us, I think, regardless of the time period we're in, regardless of the circumstances that we have, regardless of all this kind of stuff, I think ultimately, as human beings, what we don't deal well with is uncertainty. We don't deal well when we don't know where things are going or what's happening. We always, because we are aware of time, we always want to know what the outcome is going to be. Frequently when I do readings for people, there will be people who say, like, if they have a reading about something that is not more of a let's see where I'm at kind of a reading. If it's something where, I don't know, they're looking for a certain outcome. When am I going to get a job? When am I going to meet somebody? There's always the when, right? And sometimes people want to know that more than anything else. They want to know the when. And sometimes it's just kind of like, well, just go with the flow. It will. We were talking a lot about Saturn and time yesterday. It's like, let something flow into place when it's ready to do so. And in the meantime, don't be waiting around for the next thing. I think that's kind of the energy. Don't wait around to, like this is saying, don't wait around to have a party, right? Don't wait around to enjoy life. Because then what happens is you keep going from milestone to milestone and saying, oh, well, maybe when the next thing comes up, I'll be happy. Or, oh, I'm just going to look forward to this next. And then in the meantime, you just have a lot of anxiety about where you are in the present. Or if you hate where you are in the present, then you may feel like, oh God, I got to get up and do this again. It's almost like we feel like we're going in for another round of battle or for another round of boxing, every day. You get up and it's like, oh crap, I got to go through this. I got to do that. And I think the energy here is more, well, instead of doing that, like, why not enjoy yourself, And Alistair says, been feeling anxious about the benefit cuts in the UK recently. So this message is hitting right now. Oh yeah. Oh gosh, is there benefit cuts now? Wow. That's interesting. I don't know if that's, so I'm sorry to hear that that's going on. And good afternoon to you as well, or almost afternoon. There's a lot of anxiety right now. And the question is, because the thing is, there's always going to be something going on in life that's not going to be the way that we want it. There's always going to be something that's not good. And one of the things, I remember Amma has said that if you want to be happy in life, drop your expectations. Because when you start to expect a certain thing, it's and then, because life is a lot of times is about predicting. I remember that this was another Alan Watts thing. He was talking about, I introduced this to my students. I talk about the ceramic and the fully automatic model of the universe. And Alex says, that reminds me of being a kid waiting for Christmas or birthday presents. It's like, you don't have to stop playing to wait for the gifts. Exactly, right. And it's funny too, because when you get the gift, then you open it and you love it in the minute that you've got it. And then by tomorrow, you don't care about it anymore, right? So we're always waiting for the next thing. But that, I don't know, that burst of adrenaline or that burst of, endorphins or whatever it is that we get from that feeling of being happy. It's almost like an addiction, right? I mean, funny we talk about the devil card with that. It's almost like an addiction. Because a lot of people have gotten the devil as well and say, well, what does that have to do with? But the ceramic and the fully automatic models of the universe, the ceramic model is the idea that the world is made, that there's a creator, that there's somebody who, makes the earth. God makes humans out of clay. The world is made in a certain fashion. So there's this idea of making things, and that there's a certain mindset and worldview that goes along with that. And Alex says exactly, yeah. There's a certain mindset that goes along with this. And but then there's the fully automatic model. Good metaphor and relatable, absolutely. The fully automatic model says that basically it's the same thing. What Watts says is it's the same thing really as the ceramic model, only you take the maker out. So we still have a universe, because the ceramic model is based on the idea of a God as a king, and that there are rules, and that there are laws, and that there are judgments that are made, right? And in the fully automatic model, which really we could call the scientific model, is one where you say, yeah, well, we don't need a God. That's unnecessary. This whole thing just kind of happened, by some, some accident, some, event, and now it's all kind of in motion completely by accident. Okay? And, it's just kind of a machine that kind of runs itself. So these have been somewhat dominant worldviews in the West. And Alan Watts had said, he said, well, actually, they're the same worldview. They're the same worldview. It's just a matter of, do you have this this intelligence in the mix, or don't you? But they're two sides of the same coin. And he pointed out that in order to for a kind of worldview or way of thinking to be successful, it has to have predictive power. So this is why I talk about expectation, right? It has to have predictive power. Okay, if your model for knowing whether or not a hurricane is going to come and, or a tornado or something and blow your house down, if your attitude is, well, I mean, there's things you can do. There are signs that if you know how to read the natural signs that might give you an inkling. But if we have all of our weather systems where they're able to say, okay, we're able to track it, and at this time it's going to be here and it's going to be here, so this is how you prepare. That's a better predictor than just, well, God's going to make it happen when God's going to make it happen, right? It's a better predictor, and allows you to prepare better. So we tend to prefer those systems. And again, we're not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that those things are bad, because they're not bad. They certainly have a use. It's useful to be able to make these observations, find patterns, and to use technology to be able to help ourselves avoid or mitigate disaster, or prepare ourselves for something where we may, that may affect our livelihood, our survival, or something like that. There's nothing wrong with that. Certainly, there's things that we can, that when they can be predicted reliably, we tend to look at that system as a standard for truth, because it's reliable. I can see, what is, we can pretty confidently predict that this will be the outcome. Of course, sometimes things aren't always that outcome. We think about, if you can stick with the weather forecasting idea, think about how many times that everything's been tracked and then the storm does something totally different. So there's always an element of chaos in things. And when we spend our time kind of moving, just like our idea of stepping from stone to stone is just looking forward from one milestone after another. Again, nothing wrong with looking forward to events. There's nothing wrong with saying, oh, my birthday is coming up, or like Alex is mentioning Christmas, or whatever it is. You're looking forward to something, and and what may come with it. But of course, that can also not meet your expectations either. Think about people who are expecting a certain thing to happen, like on their birthday, for example, or they think a person's going to do a certain thing for them, or they're going to go out with somebody, or you go out for your birthday and then something happens, somebody gets sick or something happens. Like, there could be things that dash your expectations of the event. So there's just stuff that can happen that is There's just things that can happen that can make this kind of thing, where we can, even when we're looking forward to something, and even when we know it's going to be something good, there can still be a way that it's not. That's your Four of Cups, right? There's a dissatisfaction there. It's like, it didn't quite live up to what I wanted it to be. It's that perfection thing. It's got to be the perfect thing. But even if you feel like it's the perfect thing, like you had a great day, that, wow, I went out and we did all this cool stuff and I had a great time. The next day you almost have, it's almost, again, it's like that endorphin release, like you want to have it again. So the next day almost feels like a letdown after you've had a really great day like that, right? So yeah, and a lot of this is just tied to expectation. And it's also tied maybe to the idea that happiness comes from either accomplishment, finishing something, perficery. The word perfect, actually, perficery actually comes from the Latin word meaning to finish. Okay. There's this idea of finishing, or it's the idea that, well, it's not good today, but it will be good tomorrow. So, okay, these are all things that that create anxiety because they take us out of the present moment. We don't know how to live in the present moment, and just, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could be going to a party, you could be going to a dentist appointment. I mean, whatever it is you're going to, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy yourself now. Or like Alex's very good example of, you can wait around for Christmas, but that doesn't mean that, everything between there and Christmas is just, it literally is just, all we're doing is looking forward to Christmas. That actually just makes me think of the people I know who start watching those Hallmark Christmas movies in July or whatever. And I'm just like, why? But, anyway, that's not my thing, but I suppose it is the thing of some people. So anyway, so kind of getting back to the Three of Cups. The Three of Cups is really, to me, is that energy of have a party wherever you are. Allow each moment to be enjoyable. Allow your work to be enjoyable. Even if your work is kind of like rote. I often found that, and I remember trying to explain this to my husband when I was first, years ago when I was married. He was always very upset that the jobs that he was working, it's like, like he was a philosophy guy and he did all kinds of stuff. And it's like, yeah, but, I would rather sit around writing, or I would rather sit around doing, I don't know, whatever it was he was doing, when he was at home, which actually honestly didn't seem like very much, but, whatever it was that he would have preferred to be doing, let's put it that way. And I remember I was working in a library then too. I feel like I was doing that my whole life. But I would go in and it was the same routine every day. You went in, you unlocked the doors, you brought the book drop in. Because I was working just the circulation desk then, I wasn't a librarian. So I was just, you check the books in, you're checking them out. You have all the things, you stamp the cards. And these are all boring, rote, day-to-day kinds of tasks. They're not anything like, woo, this is so exciting, I can't wait to do this, right? But that's kind of the point. There's kind of almost a meditation to it. Like you're kind of in the groove and you do it. I think also that may be why sometimes people are in jobs that are very rote and they don't want to leave. They stay there because it's something that's kind of makes you, it's almost a comforting thing. There's a card in the, I think it's actually I'm trying to think if might be the Seven of Pentacles. I can't remember which one it is. If it's the Seven or if it's the Eight. It's one of the Pentacles cards. And it's in the Mother Piece round deck, which I gave to Joanne. I gave my version of it to Joanne because I don't use it that often. But there was a really good card in there. And it basically shows a woman making tortillas. And the meaning of the card was that one gets involved in a routine or does something repetitive to keep anxiety from turning into worry, or to keep anxiety at bay. In other words, sometimes anxiety comes out of this restlessness, like I have to do something. It's not only that I have to do something, I have to be doing something productive, right? We're not just having a party. But you can make it into something enjoyable. You can make it into a game for yourself. Or it can just be, I'm doing my work and I'm chatting with my coworkers and we're just talking about stuff. And there's a way in which you can make things potentially social. That's why I never really cared for the corporate cubicle environment where everybody is in their own cubicle. And if you get up to talk to your neighbor next door, that's very much frowned upon. Like, well, you're wasting time because you're just supposed to be there in front of your computer in your little gray box or mauve colored box of hell and just be doing your thing. And you know, so it's like, yeah, what's the, I don't know, what is the you know, how do you have a party kind of wherever you are? How do you make every moment enjoyable for yourself, even if you're doing something that's not exciting? Because that also connects the idea of joy and happiness only with what's exciting. Sometimes what's exciting, even if it's something we want, can also cause us a tremendous amount of stress. It's all about this expending of energy. And it's like, well, why not just relax and enjoy where you are? Okay. So I don't know. I thought I'd talk a little bit about this energy of the Three of Cups, because we are in the midst a lot of times seeing this energy of joy, right? Like in the midst of all of this, and a lot of us are like, are you kidding? I'm stressed to the max. Who are you to come here and talk to me about joy? You know, what the hell is joy, you know? But there's a joy to be found, because what's going on in the external world, there's always going to be a problem. There's always going to be something that happens that's no good, that's crap, that's, you know, and it's, and because of this, you know, if we only focus on what, you know, wake up in the morning and let's just focus on, you know, everything that sucks, right? I mean, I know that we talk about gratitude practice, and honestly, gratitude practice does sometimes feel a little, you know, cliche, right? Like, you know, oh, talk about all the things you're thankful for, and you might be, you know, it feels almost like a Pollyanna kind of thing. You know, the person who always comes to work and they're always positive about everything. We used to have somebody where I worked who was like that, and I remember our head of our CERT department. She's like, "Yeah, I hate that. And I can't stand her. Shut up." You know, like you don't want to hear somebody all the time going, "Oh, but look at the bright side." You're just like, "Yeah, go away." And I tend to be like that too. There's days when I'm like, "Look, I'm going to be cranky about this. I'm going to be cranky about it," and that's also sometimes why you get cranky with your friends together. Like you'll sit around, "Oh my God, can you believe this?" I mean, there, and we talk about it like it's a bad thing. It's actually quite kind of a. It's interesting. It's almost perceived as being kind of a, I'm going to call it a feminine kind of a thing. The idea of, you will see this idea of the women who get together and kind of gossip with each other, because men don't always do that. But it's a social thing. They actually said that doing that, I mean, yes, we may think about it very negatively, like, oh, here you are, like, you know, being little hens or whatever, just talking. And it's like, yeah, but this is how you connect with people, and you're going to connect on all kinds of things. And the bottom line is, we can say, well, you know, we shouldn't talk about stuff, or we shouldn't judge people. Everybody does it. I mean, let's just be real. Everybody does it. You know, we all have people that we kind of, you know, we have our opinions about. Maybe we'll share it with other people, you know, and I always feel like that. There's always the thing of, or there'll be a meeting, or there'll be an event, and then everybody has to get together and talk about, oh my God, did you see this one in the meeting? And did you see that one? Everybody does stuff like this. We're taught to be ashamed of it because it's not nice to do that. It's not always that you're saying something bad, though. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're saying bad things. But it's something where we kind of relax and not take the whole thing, you know, hopefully you're not taking the whole thing as seriously. I mean, there is a way that we can look at things and think, yeah, that was funny, and that was funny. But or if people are anxious about something, it's a chance to say, to kind of air their grievances. Like, what are they anxious about, you know? So, I don't know. Socializing, there's a lot of rules around social engagement. And social engagement is one of those things where we talk about the individual trying to gain approval of like what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. So I feel like this is almost an energy of, you know, being able to be in a space where you can kind of say and do what you want, you know, be the person that you are, you know, feel relaxed, feel like, you know, it's okay to have a party wherever I am. It's okay to do these things. So anyway, just some thoughts. Let's do our reading for today. Our central card is the Tower. It's the Thunderbolt card. Okay. So yeah, there's the idea of things that are being torn down. As I've mentioned with the Tower comes up when we are, when what is false is being torn down. Okay. When we talk about things burning to the ground, there's either an exposing, like oftentimes the Tower, it's this Uranian energy that comes in and can shock us awake. That's what I've often said, that you can't, you know, simply having a conversation about something is not usually enough to shock us awake. There needs to be something that, hits us really hard to wake us up. And the inner feeling, now this is interesting. This is flanked by the Two of Wands, okay, which is our possibilities card, which we've also gotten this week, and the New Vision card. Okay, now as far as I'm concerned, these two things imply the same thing in this deck. Possibilities, let's take the broader view, and let's look at something, let's look at the big picture. I think in the context of what we're talking about today, it's back to is the stuff you're worried about today going to matter 6 months from now, a year from now, 10,000 years from now? How important is it, right? And then we've got New Vision, which is about, this is the Hanged Man card. So making a sacrifice. We see things in its height and its depth, not to be stuck in the same place. The Hanged Man usually hangs upside down by his foot. And the idea is almost like, you stand on your head and look at it from a different perspective, right? So we have two cards about possibility and perspective. And in the middle, we've got the Tower. So this is almost saying like things are being torn down so you can have a new vision. You can look at new possibilities and have a new perspective. If you're in a state of vigilant anxiety all the time, you're not necessarily going to see what's going on out there. Or if you're in a state of expectation that everything's going to be the same. Our advice card for today is the Ace of Cups. Go with the flow, right? And again, cups, back to the heart space. And that Three of Cups too, the heart space. What brings us emotional satisfaction? What allows us to, what allows us to express from our heart rather than a sense of duty or a sense that we need to use our energy to accomplish something. If you're a very high energy person, then, or alternately, if you are in a space right now where you just feel like you're exhausted all the time, this going with the flow, this is the idea that you are, you are going to, you are kind of moving into this space that's more about what's felt, about what's intuited, what feels right, what is on your frequency, right? What is it that makes your soul happy? Okay, this is what we want to move towards, and you want to, and you can do that by going with the flow, not worrying, not having these expectations. I mean, we have the Six of Cups as the outcome, and in this particular one, it's called the Dream. So what do we've got? We've got the woman here looking wistfully at this, I guess this super couple, whoever this is supposed to be, like she's looking at it like, oh, gee, I wish I had this, right? Now, Six of Cups is often a card we associate with the past and with nostalgia, and that can be a thing too. Oh, I wish I could go back to the way it was before. When we always have that good old days idea, right? Oh, back in the time when things were great. And the bottom line is, if you really go back to those times, and like if you were able to transplant yourself, time-wise back where you were, and you were to look at it from your current perspective, you'd be like, oh, maybe everything wasn't so great. And it's not that other things aren't, it's not that it's not good to have happy memories and things like that, but you can get yourself stuck in a space because that dream space can also create an expectation that is, again, it's fine to cogitate on these things. It's fine to, think about these things once in a while. Like if you're cleaning your house out and sometimes you get something and you go, oh yeah, I forgot about this. Like we have these kinds of moments, and there's nothing wrong with these kinds of moments. The problem is when we stay in those kind of moments and say, this is where I want to stay. I'm not looking to have new vision. I'm not looking to learn anything new. I just want, because this is what makes us feel secure. But the whole idea here is learning how to be secure and learning to have a party wherever you are all the time. That may really be the thing. When we talk about having self-confidence, about being in yourself, standing in your own power, standing in your center, it means that, you can make lemonade out of anything. You know what I mean? You're in a state and it's like, okay, I can make this an opportunity. I can make this work for me. But we often associate that with chaos. But again, back to when we are far too rigid in our expectations, in our morality, in our view of what we expect from other people, we can get very much stuck in one place. And I think what we're being encouraged to do is to say, you know what, maybe we, again, thinking about how to do this differently. I'm going to finish up with a essential oil card. I haven't pulled these out in a while, so let's just, oh, here we go. And our card is oregano. Okay, oregano oil. And the keyword is resonance. And the trigger statement is, I am right. The true statement is, I am open to the unknown. And the message on it is, you are being shown what is dissonant in your life. There's our tower, right? Allow beliefs that are not serving you to fall away and be open to a bright future. Okay? So there you go. Another, and I think that makes the point too, that I think we are expecting that the future is going to be doom and gloom. And you know, and it's kind of saying, no, maybe the future is going to be awesome. Like, you know, so, but it becomes awesome when you make it a party, when you set your expectations towards how, you know, what's going to be great, rather than allowing what's going on in the collective make you react all the time with fear and anger and hatred. Like, you know, no, just have a party wherever you are. And if other people go, oh, well, I don't like that, I don't like you, I don't like this, I don't like that, who cares? You know? You know? It was like those Peanuts cartoons where Snoopy would be running around dancing and Lucy would be like, why are you running around dancing? All this stuff is bad in the world. And he would always have some smart ass remark and he would just take off. You know? It's that kind of a thing. You know? So anyway, something to think about today. We're past time. Thank you guys for joining me today. Tomorrow is, we're at Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, I'm going to do the next 2 days. I am going to probably take Sundays off from these live streams and also this Sunday, I do have to get there fairly early to teach a Reiki 2 class. So, so we're going to do that. So I'll be here, you know, tomorrow and Saturday as well for a live stream. So see you guys tomorrow morning if you want to join me. Hope you have a great day, and we'll catch up soon. Take care.